Hey guys, welcome to our new episode today. Today we're going to be talking about sexual consent, and I have here a very good friend of mine who's a training lawyer from Rare University. I'll let her introduce herself and the topic. Welcome, Dansa.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dansa. I'm a trainee from Rare University. Inshallah, joining my Kenya School of Law in May. Being an advocate for women's rights, I really advocate when individuals respect human rights, and having the privilege to talk about rape is a very important issue I would like to address. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us in this topic. So first and foremost, what is consent?
Okay, so let me begin it on a layman term. So when sexual intercourse is not, when you don't obtain a consent is either a yes or a no issue. So there's no mid consent, so you have to obtain the full consent. So the act that addresses rape is the Sexual Offense Act of 2006. So in the Sexual Offense Act, it talks about rape. So rape is it's the penetration. It can either be the partial or the complete of insertion of the genital organs of a person into the genital organ of another person. So when that penetration is not consented, or when I do not agree to that, that's when I can claim someone has raped me. So if we address the rape issue, we should talk about the age of the victim or the person. So when someone is below the age, so in the legal term, an adult person is anyone above the age of 18 years old. So when someone is below the age of 18, this person is a minor and is protected by the Children's Act. So when a child, any person below the age of 18 years, this person can't give consent. So even if they express it in writing, in a book, that cannot be consent. So if we are going to talk about consent, it's more of when you're 18 and above, because only adults are the only person who can give consent. So I will first begin on the defilement, because if you say defilement, you can't give consent in defilement. So the sentencing for defilement is when a child is below 11 years, the imprisonment can be life, depending the judge. And when a child is from the age of 12 to 15, the imprisonment is 20 years. But the judges have a discretion either to mitigate it, like having a lower sentence or having a higher sentence, depending with the circumstance of different cases. Because you find in some defilement cases, the circumstances are there's a lot of animosity. You find this person has raped someone who's 3 months old. That's something very bizarre, and we're trying to avoid that. So, and when it comes from people who we expect in the society to protect us, like religious leaders or those people who we feel protected too, and they fail to do that, the court may decide to give a higher sentencing. So it's a matter of the discretion of the courts to decide on that. So in other cases, you might find individuals, like when a lady is raped, because there's this culture, the culture of rape, which has been going on, and you find that as a woman, it's hard for you to come out. Kwanza, being a Muslim lady, it's so hard for you to come out. Because let's say, for example, you want to have fun with your friends. So you find yourself in situations where you're not supposed to be, like in bars or in clubs. And if you're raped in that position, it becomes so hard for you to go and express yourself to your parents and tell them this is what happened. So it's important to know that as individuals, we need to protect our women and we need to respect them. So by understanding and acknowledging that it's possible for a Muslim lady to be raped. Because you find people who are in churches are raped, people who are fully dressed are raped. So the fact that she's not wearing this, she's not decently dressed. A child who's 3 months old, you can't say this child isn't properly dressed, but they end up getting defiled. So who's there to blame? The victim. I mean the person who rapes them. So I would like to talk of, in other situations, you find that when you're working in a workplace, you might find the authority, someone who's above your authority, is trying to get some like sexual advancement, but now you don't know what to do because it's your word against him. Because most probably this person is the CEO, you don't know how to address, how am I supposed to help myself in this situation, how am I supposed to go about it. So the law is clear and the law is there to protect us. So as a woman, if you find yourself in a situation where you've been raped, the first and the most important thing you're supposed to do is go to the hospital. Because in most cases, you're supposed to go to police stations and file a P3 form. But in rape cases, you have to go to the nearest hospital where they get the DNA from the individual, depending on whether there's penetration, partial, because some of these cases are very bizarre. So the victims are very traumatized. So even when dealing with these hospitals, our personnel need to be taught how to address them, because some of them are so traumatized they can't even speak. So you have to know, so they need to be trained how to handle these rape victims. So after obtaining now your form, you can now go to the police station and now file a case against them, depending on if you know the victim, and then now the law is what is gonna come up and assist you. And in most of matters, like in our cultural background, you find most cases don't go to courts. Most cases are dealt with at home, which is not a good way of going about it, because many of these victims are maybe close to you. You don't know how to express to your parents, but when you get the courage to express yourself, and then this person is dealt with in a congregation, it's not fair, because it's hard for you to speak up about it. And when this person is not properly punished, it means this person can still do the same thing, knowing I'm going to pay, my culture is going to protect me, which is a wrong way to think about it. So as women, we need to talk about it and say if you feel, if you've been raped, you should express yourself. There are different platforms you can go and express yourself. It's not necessarily for you to go out to the world, and because it's also something very embarrassing to go through. So not many of the victims want to associate themselves with that, because we're going to say, oh, she was raped. And in our cultural setup, it's very hard for you to get a husband if they find out you're being raped. So a lot of cultural limitations still exist, and the fact that you can't even talk about it, and you don't have people who are going to address you, because when you come up and say, oh, I was raped, this person will say, oh, this is what you are wearing, this is what you are doing, so that's why you are raped. And it's a wrong way to go about.
Of late or recently, we've seen there's so many cases of rape cases that are coming out, like the rape victims are coming out and speaking out, and which is a good thing. It's really important that people speak out to things that have happened to them. But what I wanted to ask you, and this is a disclaimer, like what's the change? What has caused this change to happen? Can you try and explain to us how and when these things are being focused on nowadays with our human rights and our laws as of now? So take us through that.
Okay, so mostly it's with the improvement of the legal provisions that have come in place, and we also have like influencers, content creators who speak out for these victims, because these influencers are the people who have the voices. Because when an individual is in a rape situation, it becomes impossible for them to talk about it. But when I find a safe space in an influencer who's not going to maybe disclose my name, and when people come up together, when people come together and address the issue, it become like we solve it much more. So maybe with the improved digital platform, we see that many victims are coming out. And also, if we go back in our legal regime, we see that the penal code was the only act that was talking about rape. But now, in the year 2006, an act was formulated, the Sexual Offence Act, now which exclusively addresses the whole issue. So it talks about the rape, it talks about defilement, it talks about when consent can be withdrawn, because even as an individual you can give consent during the act, but I can withdraw that consent. So at that point it still becomes rape. So with all this that is happening, we see many victims are coming out, and also in our cultural perspective, many individuals are coming out. They're speaking of rape cases, they're talking of uncles who defiled them when they were young. So this has also encouraged individuals to come out. So I will advocate it to the media, to the platform that we offered, and also people being open to express themselves.
Fantastic. So if I can ask you, like, what's the legal age for consent, for example?
Okay, so the legal age for consent is that you have to be an adult, and the Kenyan law provides that an adult is an individual who's above the age of 18 years. So anyone who's below the age of 18, this person is a child, and they're protected under the Children's Act, and we have to act at the best interest of the child. So when an individual is above 18 years old, that means this person can give consent. So but there's situations in which you can't give consent. So let's say if you are drunk, like you're crazy, I can't give consent. So those are some of the circumstances where consent can't be given. And also in spousal rape, because Kenya does not provide for it as rape, because I think that's section 43 of the Sexual Offence Act. But as a totality, the whole Sexual Offence Act really addresses the whole matter. It talks about sexual harassment in workplaces, and as a legal practitioner, there are very many remedies you can obtain. You can file for injunctions. You can so injunctions mostly happen, let's say for example you are raped by someone, and these men have the guts to record you, and then they send you the video and tell you, if you if you talk about it, I'm going to leak your video. Now because you're scared, you fail to talk about it, because obviously you're scared people seeing your nakedness, and you just want to keep quiet about it. But the law is there to protect you. So there's the prohibition, so you can obtain an injunction in the court, and this person can be prevented from leaking the whole thing. And there are also damages you can still get. So you can go as a civil way or a criminal way. So the person for defamation, depending, or you can go the criminal way, so that person for rape. So you can go both ways. Yeah.
Okay, still on that topic, because you've talked about the spousal rape, right?
Yeah.
So what is spousal rape? Like, even when you're talking about spousal rape, I want you also to try and tell us about also, because people are dating, there's also the dating perspective.
Yeah.
The boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
Also, as a girl can say, I'm not in the mood of sex, and the boyfriend can insist. So can you take us through about all that, how one can realize how, for example, their partner should understand that when the other partner doesn't want to have sex, they should respect that. Just take us through on how to avoid being in a situation whereby it can criminalize you, for example,
Okay.
or rather can hurt your other partner?
Okay. So I will first like to begin with cohabitation is not a marriage recognized in Kenya. So boyfriend and girlfriend situation, if you force this person, that's still rape because there's no legal documents to show that you are a married couple. So, but in those, if you're a smart person, it's important to ask your partner. You just text this person and ask them, how did you enjoy it? If this person says yes, you have evidence on your phone that shows this person enjoyed. That means this person consented. It's not a bulletproof, like it's not something that is really concrete, but it can act as evidence to help you, because we don't need to protect women most of the time, because at times some of them, like very few, like 1% of them can have like malicious intent, and we need to be fair and we need to serve justice to every party. So in that situation, it's for the court to decide. But in matters of rape, when the married couple, you can't claim this person raped me because it's not provided for in the law. Yeah.
So even still on that, because I talked about like we should be fair in both men and women.
Yeah.
Now brings me to my other question, which is the fake scenarios of rape. Yeah, someone can pin on you and say, "Yo, so and so raped me," and maybe that wasn't true. Is there in Kenya, is there any legal support for the accused?
Yeah, there is. So I think, I don't know the clear act, the clear section, but it provides that the sentencing that you were supposed to get, let's say for example, if I accused you of rape, so if you were to get 15 years in jail, and the court finds out you are maliciously or it was a fabrication, no, I will serve that 15 years. Yeah, so the court protects you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and the thing about criminal matters, it has to be like beyond reasonable doubt. So when a lady, that's why it's really important for a lady, when you are raped, when you're genuinely raped, you need to go to the hospital and have those DNA evidence obtained and properly preserved so that it can assist the court process. But now, when it's a malicious story, you find the victim comes later, no evidence. So if the court finds out that this person is trying to fabricate you, they serve the same sentence that you were supposed to serve.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So still on that, what I wanted to ask you next is that let's talk about now the rape victims.
Yeah.
When someone is raped, what are the first things he or she should do when they're raped?
Or when they're raped, the first thing you need to do is the clothes you're wearing, you're not supposed to remove those clothes or change it, because even putting it in a polythene bag affects the DNA. So how you are, that's how you're supposed to. And it's really important for victims, as much as this person is on you, try and obtain evidence. You can scratch them, and some DNA can go under your nails. So if you go to the hospital, you just tell them, this is what I have, I was scratching him, so you can obtain some cells from there. So the most important thing is to get medical help, because there's STIs, HIV, there's so much deadly diseases out here. So it's important to go to the hospital. That's the first place you have to go. After that, you can call someone you're really close to. It does not necessarily have to be your mom. It can be your best friend, someone who you're comfortable to express yourself with. You have to go to that person so that person can assist you. Because expressing yourself, it becomes difficult. Because at times you're traumatized. Because some of the circumstances in these rape cases are very crazy. Like, people do weird things, you can't even talk about it. So when you have someone who's close to you and you're comfortable to express themselves to, they can address that to the clinic, to the person who's in charge of obtaining your DNA evidence, and so that they can know how to how to treat you. Yeah.
So to my final question, which is the most important, how can we support women and men who have gone through rape, the mental support. How can we give them mental support? Because, for instance, in many instances, rape victims don't speak out immediately.
Yeah.
They feel ashamed. They feel like they're not welcome in the community one way or another. In a way, like they exclude themselves, they isolate themselves because of the guilt and the it's called what, feeling ashamed of what they happened to them.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how we can mentally support them in terms through the process, and so that they can feel better about themselves and they can be able to heal?
Yeah.
So can you take us through that?
Okay, so I think the most important thing we need to address is the rape culture and the victim blaming, because most of the time when you're raped, people are like, this is what you are wearing, that's why you are raped. You're walking at night, that's why you are raped. But you've seen cases like small kids who are defiled. You can't tell me this kid wasn't dressing decently. This kid was walking outside, like that's a vague way of understanding this. So when we try as a society to stop having those type of perspective and having those types of notions and idea, that's when it's easy now for the victims to get the healing and the closure they want. Because imagine you being a rape victim, speaking out, and then people start blaming you. That will be really bad for your mental health. So how you can assist someone's mental health is like psychiatry, so they can assist in counseling, because most of these are traumatic experiences that you'll keep on reliving them in your mind. So they're the best people to assist in that, and mostly giving the victims a safe space and acknowledging that it can happen to anyone. It's not that you are walking at night, you were indecently dressed, that's why you were raped. It shouldn't be that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us and explaining to us about consent. I hope our viewers has learned something. So thank you so much for coming.
Welcome.
And we are welcome here anytime. You can even say a few words, people where they can find you, because you're about to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you can help them one or another, and you're really up for the women rights.
Yeah.
So let them know that where they can find you, where they can, how they can approach you in such situations. Because I think in terms of rape victims, especially let's say in terms of ladies, it's easier to approach your fellow lady.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for what we are doing. We are trying to safeguard everyone in the society, both women and men.
Yeah.
So we'll give you this opportunity to tell them where we can find you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time you've given me, because I really appreciate the time you've given me to express myself and express the thoughts I have, and being an advocate for the women's right. I really like it when women feel that they can express themselves to me, because it's a safe space. We should feel comfortable approaching any woman, or any. So you can find me on my Instagram handle at Dansa Ali, Twitter at Dansa Ali, and Facebook at Dansa Ali. Thank you.